Hola a todos, bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Today we are going to continue what we started last time, which is the future tense and how the future is built and used in Spanish. Into the future part 2, el futuro parte 2. So we are going to see some new verbs. We're going to start with empezar, which means exactly start. Start or begin. Yes, that is the meaning. Empezar. As I will remind you how the future is formed in Spanish. You have the verb empezar, and you add, depending on the pronoun, on the subject of your sentence, you add the suffixes e, as, a, hemos, eis, an. Remember, all these suffixes are the same for either the first, second, or third conjugation. Very good. So, let's see. For example, empezar. Yo empezaré. Tú empezarás. Él, ella, usted empezará. Nosotros empezaremos. Vosotros empezaréis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes empezarán. So, very simple. You leave the verb as it is and you add the suffix. Empezar, empezar, as, etc. Remember the tilde, so the accent on top of the vowels of the suffixes, except for the first person plural. Okay, let's see. Comer, a verb we all know very well. Comer means to eat, same rule as before. So, you leave the verb and you add the suffixes. Yo comeré, tú comerás, él, ella, usted comerá, nosotros comeremos, vosotros comeréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes comerán. Very easy. Now we see the verb deber. Now deber means to have to. I have to do work. Debo hacer trabajo. But the verb deber is a bit archaic. It is not much used, especially nowadays. Nowadays, we use much more the verb tener que. Have to, tener que. I have to work. You can either say debo trabajar, or you can say tengo que trabajar. Yes, so my advice is to, well, we learned the verb deber now. But remember that usually we will use this kind of structure, tener que. As I've said before, I have to work, tengo que trabajar. We will see the verb tener in just a few minutes, the future tense of the verb tener. We will see it in this lesson, or perhaps the next one. But anyways, we will talk about this verb, which is very important. So, okay. Also, just a quick note. The word homework, which is what scholars do when they get back home after school and they have to do homework. In Spanish, homework is deber. Los deberes is the homework. It comes from this verb because you have to do the homework. So los deberes, they are the homework. Plural because it is used in the plural form, los deberes. El deber is more like a jurisdictional thing. Tu deber it is your duty in a sense. Anyway, so yes, so deber is a verb more in the archaic form. We use more tener que. But anyways, deber works the same as the other verbs, so you keep the verb deber and you add the suffixes for the future tense. So yo deberé, tú deberás, él, ella, usted deberá, nosotros deberemos, vosotros deberéis, ellos, ellas, ustedes deberán. Okay, so this again, have to means to have to do something in a more archaic or formal way. Here we are, okay. Tener, very important verb, as we have seen. Tener means to have, to possess something, and as in the other you have seen just a few seconds ago, tener que means to have to. Tengo que hacer los deberes. I have to do my homework, etc. So tener is a very important verb because of the meaning it has, of course, but also because it is irregular. As you can see, it behaves in a quite different way compared to the other Spanish verbs, which are instead quite regular. So in tener, what do you have to do? You take away the E, as we have seen for haber, for example. But not only that, you add a D instead of the E. And then you add the suffixes. So, yo tendré. As you can see, the E disappears. You substitute it with a D, and then you add the suffix corresponding to the pronoun you want to use. So, yo tendré. Tú tendrás. Él, ella, usted tendrá. Nosotros tendremos. Vosotros tendréis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes tendrán. One more time, you take away the E from tener, the second E, of course. You put a D instead of an E, and then you add the suffixes, the regular suffixes for the future tense in Spanish. Okay, so tener means have. Tener que means have to, have the obligation of doing something, the duty of doing something. And in that case, tener que is synonym of deber. Okay, let's carry on. Saber is another irregular verb. It means to know, to have the knowledge of something. Saber. In this case, is a little bit easier. It behaves exactly like the verb haber. So you take away the E and you simply add then the suffixes corresponding to the pronouns. So, saber, yo sabré. E disappears. You leave the R, and then you add the suffix. Yo sabré, tú sabrás, él, ella, usted sabrá, nosotros sabremos, vosotros sabréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes sabrán. As you can see, the suffixes stay the same. The only thing that changes is that the E disappears. Just like the verb haber. Yo habré, tú habrás, él, ella, usted habrá, nosotros habremos, vosotros habréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes habrán. Okay, vivir, we come back to regular, normal, simple verbs. Vivir follows the regular pattern. You leave the verb as it is and then you add a suffix. Yo viviré, tú vivirás, él, ella, usted vivirá, nosotros viviremos, vosotros viviréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes vivirán. Perfect. Poder, we go back once again to the irregular verbs. Once again, like haber, like saber, you get rid of this E and then simply add the suffix. So, yo podré. As you can see, the E disappears, the R stays, and then you add the suffix. Yo podré, tú podrás, él, ella, usted podrá. Nosotros podremos, vosotros podréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes podrán. Perfect. No, you see, even the irregular verbs are not so difficult. It's very simple. Nothing exceptionally rare. The only thing, remember, tener, not only does the verb get rid of the E, they also add a D in the case of tener. Remember. So that is the only more different exception than the others. Caer stays the same. Caer means to fall. Did I tell you poder means to be able to. Yo podré means I will be able to. Yes, I will be able to. Vivir means to live. I didn't tell you, sorry. The translation, vivir means to live. And then, yes, saber, I told you, to have the knowledge of. Okay, caer means to fall. As I told you, it stays the same. So, yo caeré, tú caerás, él, ella, usted caerá, nosotros caeremos, vosotros caeréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes caerán. This ae is perhaps a bit tricky to pronounce, but no problem. It doesn't change. It stays the same in all in the case of all pronouns. So, caer. Ir means to go. This verb behaves exactly like the others, so the verb stays and you add the suffixes corresponding to the pronouns. Yo iré, tú irás, él, ella, usted irá. Nosotros iremos, vosotros iréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes irán. Perfect. Ver, again, another verb that behaves completely regularly. It means to see, and so it goes. Yo veré, tú verás, él, él, ella, usted verá. Nosotros veremos, vosotros veréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes verán. No mystery, no problem here. Perfect. Now, as you have seen already, we're going to do a couple of examples. En 2 años iré a México. En 2 años iré a México. In 2 years, I will go to Mexico. Now, the first thing, Mexico in Spanish, it is written with an X, but this X, extraordinarily, is pronounced as a J, as a J. So it is not Mexico in Spanish, it is México. México. This X is like it is an exceptional case. In the pronunciation of the X is not like a J, like a J, but in this case, in the case of Mexico, yes, it is. So imagine instead of the X to be, there is a J, so a J. México. En 2 años, we have seen this structure in the last lesson. It means in 2 years, iré, I will go, a México, to Mexico. Pasado mañana veré a mis hermanos. Pasado mañana veré a mis hermanos. Pasado mañana, we have seen, it means the day after tomorrow. Veré, I will see. Verbo ver, first person singular. A mis hermanos, my siblings. Do you see? Can you see? I put an A here, and I told you. I believe it was with. I don't remember precisely. I'm sorry. But we have seen, I think, in the lesson about the pets, I told you it was a specific verb we used, and then I told you that you always have to put the A. This happens also in the case, let's say in all cases in which I have to say that I will have some sort of connection with someone. For example, here, I will see who? My siblings, mis hermanos. In Spanish, we have to put the A. Veré a mis amigos. Veré a mi madre, etc. So, remember with the verb ver, if you have to refer it to someone, ver a. Ver a mi padre, or ver a mi perro, etc. To see my mom, to see my dad, to see my dog, you always have to use the A. Okay. Podré estudiar todos los días. Podré estudiar todos los días. Now, podré, I told you it means to be able to. So this is first person singular. I will be able to. Estudiar, in the infinite form, to study. Todos los días, every day. Okay. Very good. Now it's time for a classic exercise. You already know what you have to do. Here you have some verbs, and I will see you when you are done with the translation of these verbs. Okay, let's see how you did. So, we will fall. Nosotros caeremos. Regular, caer, caeremos. First person plural. They will know. Ellos sabrán. This is irregular. Verbo saber, but you take away the E and then you add the suffix for the third person plural. Ellos sabrán. I will live. Yo viviré. This is regular, vivir. First person singular, viviré. They will have to. Ellos deberán, if you use the verb deber, and so deber plus the suffix for the third person plural, deberán. Or ellos tendrán que, if you use the verb tener. In that case, the verb tener is irregular. You have to take away the E and add a D, and then at the end you add the suffix. In this case, again, third person plural. Tendrán que. Remember the que here. Tendrán que. Because otherwise, even in English, it wouldn't have the same sense. In English, we have to say they will have to. Tendrán que. Without these two, they will have. Without this que, ellos tendrán. And this just means they are have the possession of something. Instead, we want to say that they have the duty of doing something. They have the obligation of doing something. And so we need to add the to in English. We need to add the que in Spanish. In the case of deber, the verb already says it all. So no need to add any other word, as it is the case for tener. Okay? We will go. Nosotros iremos. Verb ir. Very regular. You add the first person plural suffix. You will see. Tú verás. In the case the you is referred to the second person singular. Vosotros veréis. In the case it is referred to the second person plural. The verb is anyways ver. Regular. You add as, es. She will eat. Ella comerá. Comer. Third person singular. Comerá. And he will start. Él empezará. Again, empezar, regular, third person singular, empezará. Just something that I wanted to say that doesn't specifically relate to the future tense. I am putting all the pronouns for clarity, but actually remember that in Spanish it is not mandatory. In English we have to absolutely put the pronouns every time, in every case, in every situation. In Spanish it is not mandatory. We can simply get completely rid of them and it's totally fine. Pronouns are not specifically required in any case, so you can simply forget about them. But in this case it is better to connect a verb, its suffix, with the pronoun it is referred to. So for now you can specify them, then be aware of the fact that you can simply forget about them, in the sense that in a sentence it is not necessary to write them down or to say them out loud, because they are implicit. If I say caeremos, it is obvious because of the suffix it has that this is a first person plural. In English we don't have something like that. That is why we have to specify the pronoun every time. In Spanish we have suffixes which help us in understanding what is the person we are referring to. Or, well, who is the person we're referring to? What is the subject? So this was just an information, a clarification in case you didn't remember. Now, another exercise, a more one in which you are completely free of talking about whatever you prefer. In this case, I ask you, ¿a dónde piensas que vivirás en 10 años? Where do you think you will live in 10 years? My answer would be, yo pienso que viviré en una ciudad grande en Europa, como París o Londres. This means I think that I will live, que viviré, en una ciudad grande, in a big city. Remember that in English we always have to put the adjective before the noun. In Spanish it is most of the times the opposite. So, en una ciudad grande, in a big city, en Europa, in Europe, como París o Londres, like Paris or London. Then you have a blank space and you can write whatever you want. Tell me where do you see yourself living in 10 years. Okay, very good. Congratulations.